Today I'd like to show you a little bit about connection between Rhino to Revit. So first of all, in my old tutorial, if you go to Learning Paths, then if you click Revit, you can see in this section I have in and out, and here I have several tutorials about how to make connection between Rhino to Revit. For example, in this approach, I can use SAT file to connect a Rhino model as a meshing, and then I can build a tower from the Rhino file. In the second tutorial, I covered you can transfer file as a DXF from Rhino. Then here in Revit, you can customize color, you can customize material. Right? And in the third one, I covered if you do have a conceptual model, I think it's one of earlier one. Anyway, it's somewhere here. It's talk about if you have a conceptual model or conceptual model family, then you can bring probably is here in adaptive component. You can bring the model from other program into Revit. Then you can construct. Oh, actually, it's not this one. But anyway, something similar like this approach. Bring the Rhino into Revit as a DXF. So today I want to show you an alternative way, which I think is probably more robust. It's kind of similar like a dynamo in Revit. You can run, visual scripting directly on top of Revit. Then you can construct really complicated organic form from it. However, not everybody is able to learn Dynamo very easily, right? So that's the reason I want to show you, if you are a Rhino user, if you already have Grasshopper skills, you can actually using a program called RehinosideRevit. If you Google this, you can find this website. There's a wonderful tutorial. It shows you step by step how to download, how to install the plugins, right? So today's demo, I just want to give you a very quick kickoff lecture about this potential, and then in the future you can dig into it if you really want to learn how to use Grasshopper, how to link Revit family, Revit category or style into the Grasshopper environment, right? So here, let me just go to my Revit. I will show you really quick. So for example, in the last tutorial, I covered how to create a roof structure, how to create frames or truss or beams, right? You see this beam is actually transferred from Rhino as DXF. So sort of like a static model. You cannot really edit this anymore, right? But today I want to show you, if you want to create some structure like this, really soft organic shape, and each of these is actually a curve, and then this curve can be used to construct a frame system. So for example, I can use glue lamp, but also I can switch to different dimension, and you can see the model will update, right? So I want to show you this process is using an alternative way to actually bring the model into Revit environment. And here, instead of treating this as a static model, you can take these curves, you can apply the frame system on top, just give you that kind of full power of beam system. All right. So first thing I will do is, in this tag, after you installed Rhino inside Revit, you should be able to see something like this. Just give you a quick heads up. You don't really have to know Grasshopper in this case. You just need to know how to launch a Rhino instance inside Revit. So here, if I click Rhino, I can open Rhino directly here. And I will go ahead actually open a file I created earlier, just to make the demonstration a little bit easier to see. Let me see what's the best way, because right now you have Rhino here. We are back. So here I will just go ahead, click Rhino, then I can launch Rhino program inside Revit. Then I will go ahead, open a file I created earlier for the roof. So I'm using the organic modeling functions in Rhino. I can do a loft. I can create a really blobby shape easily in Rhino. So in this case, you can see this shape is basically lofted by two curves, right? So instead of doing this manually, I'm actually launch Grasshopper. So this could be a little bit trickier, right? Right now you are in Grasshopper, which is running inside Rhino, and the Rhino is running inside Revit. Okay, these three programs running together. And I will open example file I created earlier. Later I will give you this file. Okay, I think the file name, I have to find it in, I think I did this in just as a test. I should rename it as a better name. So once I open this Grasshopper file, you can see it's really straightforward. It basically just generates a loft surface based on these two curves. Right? So you have curve 1, curve 2. I create a loft. Maybe I will do this way. I will simply only display the selection. Right? So here you can see the curve 1, curve 2, lofted. And then I did a few things. So first thing I did is I subdivide the surface based on the U and the V. So you have 10 along this direction, 20 along the longer direction. So you have a grid of points. Then I will create a curve based on these points, right? So this is basically feed vertices, and then you create a curve based on the vertices. Because the data structure come out of these points are organized based on U and V. So the first group of lines are follow the U direction. So you have all the lines here. And in the second branch, I rotate what we call flip matrix. You basically flipped the data structure. It's kind of like from the vertical to horizontal. If you think about this as an Excel spreadsheet, you rotate that whole data table 90 degrees. Then I can get the V orientation. So if I create a loft of curve, I get this vertical curves. There's many ways you can do this, through wavebird, through lunchbox. I'm just using this quick trick I use all the time. So you got U and a V, and I merge, right? So you basically got a bunch of lines follow the U and a V direction. And then I'm using this script. This script, after you install the Rhino inside Revit, you should see that available here. There is a new tag called Revit. So there is a bunch of new tools here. Right. I'm not gonna go into details because I will give you this file directly. So here, this is a category. If I hold in Control Shift and click, Control Alt and click, you can see that is this component come from. Basically, it's just an inventory list of all the possible categories inside Revit. So right now I'm choosing structural frame as my current category. And then you have another component. If I see that, that is basically a filter. Is tell this component what type of the families you want to use. So for example, glue lamp, saucepan pan, this is actually the type which is available in the current Revit project, right? So you can see all the actually style, the type I have loaded into the project, so they are available here. So by default, I'm using this 5 by 19.25. So this is my frame dimension, right? Saucepan pan. If you're not sure what it is about, you probably have to go back to Revit, and then here you can see under your structure. If you create, for example, a beam system, you do have all of these options as a list, right? And also you can see this list directly from here in the project browser under the structural frames, and you should be able to see all the family you loaded, right? Family include multiple types. Okay, so back to this Rhino window. Sometimes Rhino window you have to click to push this to the front, and then I do another component. This component basically is just an add beam function. So here, if I use Control Alt, you can see here that component come from. So basically, what this happen is it tell the Grasshopper, hey, I want to add this back into my Revit. Okay, so this is the whole sequence. Just to continue. So now if I pushed this type into this beam modeling component, I should be able to use this style as well as the curve to generate a new beam system. So you can see the system is right here. If you recall, in Grasshopper, you can right click, you can bake. In this case, you don't really have to bake, because when you bake into a Rhino file, right? It's not into the Revit. The component here is actually capable to directly communicate into your Revit. So here, if you go back to your Revit, you should see your model automatically showed up. If it's not, you probably have to click the recompute in order to make sure it's running. So here, just to do a live demo, if I, for instance, go back to my Rhino file, I made some modification. I want to make this curve get a little bit closer here to do a really thin roof. So it's basically a new shape like this, right? So once you update here in Grasshopper, in Rhino, and then back to Revit, you should automatically see the update. So it's really, really robust. You don't have to bake, you don't have to transfer DXF or SAT. It just automatically showed up here. Okay. Because this form is still live linked into Grasshopper, into Rhino, so here if you do want to edit some component, this component actually later will be override by the Grasshopper file. So in some case, if you do want to for example break the connection between this form with your Rhino and the Grasshopper form, you can either make a duplication, or you can go here and then click I believe it's release elements. So basically this means is stop tracking what Grasshopper is doing, right? So here you can release all the elements, so there's no longer synced into a Grasshopper file. So now if I want to change the dimension, or if I want to change these individual elements, I can freely do so. So I can change the size of it. Actually, I probably have two of them here. If you unpin, maybe I accidentally did another one here. Yeah. No, you can reorganize them in any way you like, and I can change the dimension of the frame. Okay. So here, if you see, if I re-updating my Rhino file, if I drag it here, make it longer, it's updating in Grasshopper, updating inside Rhino. But here, if I go back to Revit, right, you'll see this detached piece, right, is no longer updating. You only have this updated version, here. But this duplicated, I would say the released version is kind of, how to say, like a bake, right? You already baked these pieces into Revit, so they do not have any connections to the original Grasshopper and the Rhino anymore. So you can treat release as a sort of bake. That makes sense, right? So this is how you can get some organic form. So I would say this could be a really interesting approach if you are more comfortable with Grasshopper and Revit. And here you can definitely edit. So here, if I use points, I can drag the points, make some really quick organic form, right? So as soon as you updated this, and here you can see the result, right? And then if I go back to Revit, and I can see the Revit will updating as well. Okay, so you have this dripped roof surface. Okay, I think that's it about the Rhino inside Revit. I hope this will